taken her to all the continents of the world. Honorable Justice Aloma Mariam Mukhtar has scored many firsts in her illustrious career. First female lawyer from northern Nigeria, first female magistrate from the north, first female High Court judge also from the north, first female justice of the Court of Appeal in Nigeria, first female to be elevated to the Supreme Court of Nigeria, and first female Chief Justice of Nigeria. Her achievements over the years inspired many people across the country.
I think I first heard about her when I was in secondary school. That was Queen's School in Lauren. They announced at the assembly that Northern Nigeria has the first female lawyer has qualified. So we celebrated. I didn't meet her, but I was hearing about her from all angles, from everywhere. I was not a lawyer then, I was just a student.
I met her for the first time sometime in 1978. My father was traveling to Kano, essentially to see her, and was gracious enough to take me along, believing that I will be inspired by her very early achievements in life. She was then, or had been, a High Court of Justice of Kano State, Nigeria. 1978, that is easily 36 years ago. I must place on record, and I think I've said it elsewhere, I was fascinated. I was extremely impressed. She had achieved this milestone at such a young age, and it did have the effect my father wanted it to have on me, which was to see those who could provide a young kid inspiration in life.
She was the only female judge of the Kano State High Court, and we all used to look up to her. She minded her business, did her work, did not suffer fools gladly. So we all used to look up to her and admire her from a distance.
Virtually everyone, or every lady who is a lawyer in Kano or in the northern states has always looked up to her, because even before you met her, you had heard about her. She's the first this, the first that, the first that. So you are overwhelmed. You feel like you know her already.
In the course of her career on the bench, many lawyers have appeared before her. They share their experiences.
My experience was very interesting. When I got to the Ministry of Justice, I was posted newly, and I was trusted with a file to go and appear before her court. A very senior colleague of mine, Justice Shaibu of the Lawal Shaibu of the Court of Appeal now, told me that, look, you must be careful when you appear before her. She's a no-nonsense judge. The first thing that struck me about her was that when we got there, unlike other courts where senior lawyers call their case out of turn, and the junior lawyers are expected to wait until after the senior lawyers have called all their cases, she insisted on going strictly by the list before her court, whether you are a senior or junior. And when she called upon me, I said to her, I will seek an adjournment because I've just been given the file. And she said, I will adjourn the case for you to appear before me tomorrow. So I went back. I thought it was going to be very simple. And when I appeared the next day, I said, my Lord, I will not be opposing the appeal. Then she said, give me reasons why you're not opposing the appeal. And the rest is history. Well, I have a very pleasant sense of appreciation about her style.
As every lawyer would do, you have to find out what kind of judge you are appearing before, and I got very positive reports about her, that she was incorruptible. So I conducted my case, and I wasn't surprised that we won the case, to the embarrassment of the man who had boasted, that he was going to win the case. So, and that first impression made me to follow a career, in the judiciary. And I've never been disappointed in terms of our integrity. As bad as the system is, nobody, no litigant, no lawyer has ever associated Justice Aloma Mariam Mukhtar with corruption. Nobody.
This day, I was going to appear before my Lord the CGN. I was dressed in a white shirt that had some black dots. As far as I was concerned, I was wearing black and white. So there was nothing wrong with that. She chatted with me to in fact, I was I don't know if I told you, I was appearing before her that morning. So we chatted and it was normal. Then when it was about time for my Lord, I never discussed any cases with her, no. When it was time for my Lord about time for her to come into court, I took leave of my Lord, the CGN, and went into court. When the court sat, and by then I think after one or two senior lawyers mentioned their cases, my case was up for mention. Then when I stood up and announced my appearance, my Lord said to me, Mrs. Ben Omar, the next time you appear in my court in that outfit, it will not be funny. She allowed me to appear that day, but she had warned me. This is something I wore to her office before I came into court. She didn't say anything. I'm telling you, after court that day, when I came back to my house and hung that shirt in the wardrobe, I never took it back again.
Madame is strict as a judge, but I think she is also a very fair-minded person. And as counsel, what it meant was you would prepare more vigorously for your case. But I never got the impression that is somebody that will put you off as a junior counsel. Or in fact, there was something very compassionate about her conduct as a judge, especially to younger practitioners.
Judicial officers are unanimous in their attesting to the courage, steadfastness, impartiality of the Honorable Chief Justice in taking decisions. These, they say, reflect on the quality of judgments she delivers.
From the judgments I had seen that she had written in the law reports, I was very much impressed. And I tried to, to emulate her as my role model in whatever I do.
She's a paragon of goodness. She's a woman that has no atom of diluted justice in her veins. She believes in equity, fairness, and reasonability of whatever you do. She fears God, and she allows this to apply whatever she does. And she has demonstrated this in a number of occasions, particularly when it comes to taking decisions, no matter whose source is God, no matter even if the decision will affect her, she believes equity must be allowed to take place.
Any memorable or standing judgments?
The area courts had criminal jurisdiction. So people who are alleged to commit criminal offenses were actually taken before them. And it was in that instance I had the case which is memorable to me. I had a matter which involved an indigene of Kano, and he briefed my office, and I went to the area court. The area courts were courts which at that time the proceedings were conducted, in fact I think still now, in areas where they still have them, The proceedings were conducted mostly in the native language, which was Hausa, the language of predominance in the area. And the judge in the area court insisted, in fact, it was, I can still remember the court now, it was area court number 3 at that time in Savongeri. The judge in the area court insisted that unless I could speak the language of the court, the proceeding would not be interpreted to me as counsel, and therefore I was going to be shut out of the conduct of the case on behalf of my client. So I took an application for fundamental rights, enforcement of fundamental right, to the High Court, and in it I made the case that the essence of the constitutional provision is that what the accused person cannot do for himself by way of legal representation should be done for him by counsel. And since the Constitution, 1979 Constitution, had given the accused person as a fundamental right, the right of representation in a criminal case, which later on the courts have actually extended it as a fundamental right to civil cases. But at that time, what was more spelled out was that the accused person in a criminal case was mandatorily allowed to be represented by counsel, even though many of the provisions of the area court laws at that time excluded the right to counsel. So they were struck down as unconstitutional. So this was a new hurdle, and it was novel. No one had faced this before. There was no reported cases, and so on. So I took this as a fundamental right before the High Court, and the case was assigned to the Honorable Justice Mukhtar, Aloma Mukhtar, then the High Court's judge in Kano. And the argument before the court was that the profession was won, the legal profession was won. It is not a requirement of the legal profession that you should be able to speak in local dialect. And therefore, where an accused person who is entitled to the right of representation by counsel has a counsel who cannot speak the language of the court, it was legitimate that the right of understanding that language by way of interpretation should be extended to counsel. And His Lordship heard the case and granted the order that the proceedings of the court should be interpreted in English to me. And so I remember that very clearly, and part of why it is so significant is that if that was not done, if that was not the order we sought was not observed, it would have led to a kind of segregation within the legal profession.
Most difficult or most traumatic was our decision in Yaradua versus Buhari. I mean, I was in court as honorary advisor legal to President Yaradua and Presidential Counsel. And the case came before the Supreme Court. And we were sitting there trembling, counting our votes, because we needed to win. We narrowly won. It was 4 judges for Yaradua, 3 for Buhari, who felt that the elections ought to have been cancelled. One of those who felt the elections ought to have been cancelled was her lordship. And as she read her judgment, I was trembling there and hoping that she will not get another vote to tilt the proceedings against us. But you must respect all the justices for delivering their own opinion according to their conscience and according to their appreciation of the law and standing their ground. But for me, that was very memorable because I was in the dock. I was right there in the heat of fire.
In her distinguished career, the Honorable Chief Justice has mentored many younger people who happened to cross her path.
When I came closer to her, that was when she was a presiding justice in Jos, I noticed a number of things. One, she was very, very, very punctual in terms of court sittings, in terms of attending conferences, in terms of attending meetings. Name it. whatever she knows that she has a responsibility to do there, you will find that she will be the first to be there. That's point number one. Now, point number two is, I have never, since we came working together, I have never seen a situation where she failed to deliver any judgment. That shows you that she's very hardworking, very dedicated to the work, very punctual, and of course, if whatever judgment she takes, she delivers it.
A person that understands, for instance, when we were appearing before her and she knew that probably we had our shortcomings, she was always prepared to ensure that she guided us. In as much as she wanted things done properly and, for one to be very well versed in the law, she was also prepared to teach us where she felt we needed to know more. So this was the type of person.
When I came out fresh from secondary school, youthful exuberance, I was feeling high, tough, but she instilled fear into me, and really I have to follow her as a big sister. At a certain level, I was transferred from Maiduguri to Potiskum. While I was in Potiskum, she wrote a letter to me that on so-so date, well, I cannot remember the date precisely, but it was in 1972, that I should proceed to Zaria on a certain date to attend an examination and interview preparatory to